Hello again, folks. Today I'm going to be reading you the third chapter in my book, Blood of the Wolf. It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com in paperback and in Kindle. So do go there and check it out. There's going to be links down in the description, and then also if you look in the bar up at the top, the display bar, it's going to have the links as well to that and to other sites you can go to support what I'm doing here. We are going to be reading you stories out loud, starting with the works that I have, and then once we can reach out to a few more authors in the area, going to be bringing them on to read their works as well to help promote their work, give them an avenue to promote themselves that they normally wouldn't have. So, without further ado, Blood of the Wolf, Chapter 3, The Price of Power. They ran for at least 10 blocks before Lisa and Alan begged Michael to stop so they could catch their breath. Alan took off his shirt and wiped away the blood. The rain that had started falling before the massacre helped to wash it away. Michael's body was still racked in pain, but it was only driving him further. He could still feel his muscles twisting and turning under the surface of his skin. Lisa noticed Michael wasn't doing too well. "Are you all right? You look like you're in a lot of pain." "I don't know what's going on. My muscles are so tight right now, I feel like my bones are going to break." "You going to be okay?" "I don't know. I just want to get home." Lisa spotted a payphone in the corner. "I'll be right back. I'm going to go call a cab." She called a cab company and gave the dispatcher their location. The cab showed up about 20 minutes later, and Michael was on his knees. His muscles hurt so much, and his skin was becoming hot to the touch. He practically poured himself into the cab and laid his head down on Lisa's lap just before passing out. Lisa told the driver to get them to the hospital as fast as possible. When they got there, Lisa got some help and Michael was wheeled into emergency. He was twitching and convulsing on the stretcher, so bad in fact they had to strap him down. Lisa called Angela to let her know what was going on. She was barely able to let her know that they were at Emmanuel Hospital before Angela hung up the phone and was on her way. Lisa and Alan sat down in the waiting room for about 30 minutes before Angela showed up. She ran in through the door, frantically searching for them to find out what had happened. "Where's Michael? What happened? Is he okay?" Lisa held Angela and tried to explain what was going on to the best of her ability. "They have him back there right now, but we haven't heard anything." "Well, what the hell happened? Why is my son in the hospital?" Lisa and Alan leaned in close because they didn't want anyone else to overhear. Who knew what people would think if they heard what they were about to say? Confused, Angela leaned in closer as well. "After we left the concert, we got attacked by a bunch of guys that had been messing with us before we got in. Alan got stabbed, and Michael got shot in the head." Angela collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "Oh my God, my baby boy! How could something like this happen?" Lisa knelt down next to her and held her. "Angela, he doesn't have a hole in his head. The wound healed itself." Angela looked up in shock and a little surprise as the realization of what might be going on occurred to her. Lisa saw her reaction, so she inquired as to the reason. "Do you think this has anything to do with the story you told him last night?" "It has to be. It's the only explanation. I don't know for sure, though. I've no idea what he can do. All I know is what happened that night in the clearing. I don't know anything else. Oh my God, what about Alan?" Alan stood up and showed her his stomach. "One minute he was kneeling over me, yelling for someone to call an ambulance, and the next there was a green glow coming from the palm of his hand, and the knife wound in my stomach was closing and healing." Angela looked at Alan's stomach in astonishment, seeing that all that was there now was a small scar where once a bloody knife wound had been. Angela looked back at Lisa with her original question even more pressing in her mind now. If he's healed, then why is he here? That's what's so weird. He took on all those guys like he couldn't be beat. He tore them apart, literally. Angela, he killed them. He threw one guy at a car so hard the car buckled around him. Angela was even more astonished by the story Lisa was telling her, and growing more worried by the minute of what the consequences would be on her son. She still persisted, though. But that still doesn't explain what he's doing here. After he healed, Alan, we ran, because we heard the police coming. We ran for at least 10 blocks before we stopped to catch our breath. Michael kept wincing in pain and complaining about how bad his muscles were hurting. I called a cab because he said he just wanted to go home. But when the cab got here, he was in so much pain he just passed out on my lap. I told the driver to take us to the hospital, and he's been in emergency ever since. They haven't told us anything. Well, I have to find out something. I can't just sit here or I'll go crazy. Angela marched over to the nurse's station with a purpose. The nurse, of course, looked at her with a less than concerned expression on her face. Angela slammed down her hand on the counter. Where is my son? I demand to know if he is going to be all right. What's his name? His name's Michael Kerrigan, and he's 18. His friends brought him in less than an hour ago. He was having convulsions. Oh, him? Yeah. The doctor's having a hell of a time calming down the convulsions. The straps are having trouble holding him down. They can see that he's in pain, but they can't find any visible reason why. I'll tell the doctor you're here. He should be out in a while to talk to you. Okay, thank you. Angela paced around the waiting room for another 45 minutes before the doctor finally came out. Mrs. Kerrigan? That's me, and it's Miss. I'm divorced. My apologies, Miss. I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but do you know if your son is on any medications or illegal drugs? The only reason I ask, mind you, is because we can't find any other explanation for what he is experiencing at the moment. Angela looked appalled that the doctor would even make such an accusation. No, absolutely not. I know my son. We talk about everything. If you were on drugs, I'd know. Lisa smiled. She's not kidding. They don't hide anything from each other. And you are? His girlfriend. This is his brother, Alan. She pointed over in Alan's direction. Alan just waved to acknowledge the introduction. The doctor turned back to continue speaking with Angela. Miss Kerrigan, what your son is experiencing could be likened to the combined effects that acid and PCP would have on the body. We had a hell of a time lowering his blood pressure, and his temperature was so high he was essentially cooking. We're currently waiting on his blood work to come back before we'll know for sure what is happening. He's calmed down quite a bit since the time he was brought in, but he still seems to be in pain, so we gave him a shot to ease it. We would, of course, have him on an IV, but it won't stay in his arm. I can only assume that has something to do with his condition. Doctor, when can we see him? You can see him now, but only 2 of you can be allowed in at a time. Don't expect to get much out of him, though. He's in some kind of coma, and we can't wake him. I'll take you back. Alan offered to stay behind. You 2 need to see him more. If he wakes up, just tell him I'm pulling for him, and tell him thank you. As the doctor was leading them back to Michael's room, they passed by another room with an all too familiar face inside. Mangled as it was, Lisa still recognized it. It was Taz. And he was screaming and crying almost incomprehensible nonsense, but she knew exactly what he was talking about. Oh my God, it was so horrible. It was trying to eat me. The demon with the red glowing eyes. It came out of the shadows. We never saw it coming. It killed all of them. He just started screaming and fighting to get away while looking at something that wasn't even there. Lisa knew it was the image of Michael stained into his mind. Nurses and doctors tried to calm him down so they could do what they needed to in order to help him. Sir, you have to calm down. We have to stop the bleeding. Nurse, quickly, sedate him. Doctor, he's flatlining. Lisa and Angela heard the sound of the heart monitor flatlining as the doctor ushered them further down the hall. He looked towards the room Taz was in, and he just kept shaking his head in disapproval. Damn drug addicts. He ended up getting in a wreck and killing all his friends in the process. Police still can't tell what he hit, though. The doctor just shook his head and stared down at his chart as he led them into Michael's room. He's in here. I have a feeling it's going to be a long night. I'll let you know as soon as I know anything. Angela thanked the doctor as he turned to leave. She pulled a chair up next to Michael's bedside and watched him, praying that he would open his eyes and be okay. He continued to grimace in pain, though, and moved around like he couldn't get comfortable no matter which way he turned. Of course, the straps didn't help matters much, but Angela and Lisa could understand why they were in place as they could hear them stressing under his newfound strength. What they didn't know was that what they were seeing was only the beginning. At one point in Michael's twisting and turning, his mouth opened just enough for Lisa to see something that caused her to jump a bit. She walked over to the other side of the bed and opened his lip enough to verify what she thought she saw. Angela leaned in closer to see what Lisa was looking at, and when she saw it, she jumped back as well. Michael's canine teeth had elongated into fangs. top and bottom, although the tops were considerably longer. All the others were normal, from what they could see, though. Strange as it seems, I half expected it, but it does confirm that he's beginning to change, as they said he would. I just wish I knew how much he was going to change. The doctor came back a few hours later with the results of the tests. As far as I can tell from these tests, Michael's body is changing on the cellular level. His immune system is fine. His toxicology report came back clean. But for the life of me, I don't know why he won't wake up. There is no physical reason he should be in this coma. Unfortunately, right now, it's just a waiting game. We'll have to see how he's doing in the morning. We'll admit him to a room. You both are welcome to stay. Just before the doctor walked out of the room, he turned back one last time. This type of mutation is unlike any I've ever seen. But I need to check my facts before I speak about it any further. Lisa and Angela only left Michael's side momentarily when he was being admitted to a room. They took the opportunity to go out and tell Alan what was going on as well as get some coffee and something to eat. They knew it was going to be a long night, as neither one of them had the desire or the ability to sleep at this point, fear that they would miss some new development in Michael's condition. New developments the likes of which they could not expect would come soon enough. But for now, Michael was more in a state of stasis than he was in a coma. While his body was changing, Michael's spirit was traveling the astral plane, learning the true purpose of his existence. He awoke to find himself surrounded by blackness. He was a bit shaken because he could not tell where he was. All of a sudden, he got the feeling he was falling, but he couldn't tell in which direction, for direction had no meaning in this place. He was in the void, a place that is between all dimensions, and nothing is as it seems. What the hell is going on? Michael screamed as he fell, a distance that seemed like it would never end. He fell so long, in fact, that he finally stopped screaming because he couldn't see the point. He finally impacted with something so hard that it felt like every bone in his body would shatter under the force. He lay there on the ground, groaning and clutching his ribs in pain. At least he thought it was the ground. For all he knew at this point, it could have been the ceiling. Off in front of him, he saw some sort of doorway opening up, and something was walking through. As it moved towards him, the ground shook violently with each step it took. The figure stood at least 12 feet tall, and almost just as wide, staring down at him with yellow glowing eyes piercing the darkness like the sun. The gaze from this thing alone was one of the most frightening things he had ever experienced. He felt its massive paw reach down and grasp him, but when it did, he felt all the pain leave his body. In fact, he couldn't feel anything. He was paralyzed. As it pulled Michael up towards its face, he thought it was going to eat him. He tried to struggle, but to no avail. As he got closer to its face, the light from the doorway hit it, and Michael was no longer afraid. This huge beast was Black Wolf. Black Wolf, what's going on? What is this place? Hold on. One question at a time, Michael. Everything will be answered in due time, I promise. Well, then what is this place? Black Wolf looked around at their surroundings almost as if he was at home in this place. This is the void. It's a point that is between all dimensions. A place that has no direction, no time. It, for all intents and purposes, is nothing. Therefore, you are nowhere. Michael's face was blank and wide-eyed, because the answer was a bit much to take in all at once. Why am I here? Black Wolf laughed. Well, because you died, of course. Michael's eyes got wide. If he could have jumped out of his skin, he would have. What? Black Wolf looked down at him, surprised. You didn't think your body was going to survive getting shot in the head, did you? Well, no, but what about the lightning and those people I killed? And all the pain I felt before I passed out? Black Wolf smiled. That was simply your soul awakening to the true power it possesses. Your body was not ready to contain such power, therefore it overwhelmed you and you passed out. For the remainder of the change, you will be in a form of stasis. Although the outside world, it will appear to be a coma. You only experienced a fraction of what you are capable of. If you were to experience the full magnitude of the power you possess in your body's fragile state, it would have been like a bomb going off, and we couldn't have brought you back from that. They would have been mopping you up for weeks. Michael seemed like he understood, But he was still curious about a few things. Well, why can't I move? That's because I've paralyzed you for the remainder of the change. Even though your body is in stasis, your soul can still feel the pain that the body is in, because it is always connected to it. If it were not, you would die. Since that pain is distracting and I need you focused for the journey we're about to take, I paralyzed you. Michael nodded his head in understanding, but then the realization hit him. Wait a minute, what journey? Black Wolf didn't answer. He just smiled and turned to walk through a doorway he had opened out in a meadow. The meadow was beautiful, lush and green. It appeared to be completely untouched by the pollution of the world. Michael looked around in awe. He had never seen a place so beautiful before. Where are we? Black Wolf looked around and took a deep breath. We are on Earth. Back before corruption had a hand in changing it. Back before man began destroying it. We are here to witness a meeting of the gods, so you may begin to understand the full magnitude of your purpose. Just watch and learn. Michael watched as the other gods began entering the field, those of myth and legend, as well as other well-known ones. Black Wolf pointed off to one god in particular, a beautiful woman in a dress with flowers in her hair. That is Gaia, or Mother Earth as you might know her. She is the creator of this planet. Gaia began to speak to the other gods that had been gathered. I have brought you all here today for a very important reason. I wanted you to witness the paradise I have created for us all to share. This is to be a place of peace for all, an escape from the great war that we are forever fighting. All of you are welcome here, but with one simple rule. You may never try to rule this planet. Just then the god Jehovah stepped forward. What if we were to refuse this request of yours? Gaia sighed as she pondered his question. I was hoping no one would pose that question. But if you must ask. Gaia pointed to another god off to her left. And as he stepped forward, the other god stood visibly nervous, for this god was known by all for his unmatched ability in battle. Michael looked at this new god in awe, and he couldn't help but notice the massive amount of energy that he exuded. Who is that? Black Wolf looked at him with a noticeable amount of respect. That is Great Wolf. He is the leader of all the Thunder Wolves. Your leader. He has never been beaten in battle, and this is something well known to all the gods. Great Wolf stood next to Gaia and looked around at all the gods gathered in the field. Some he regarded with respect, but others, Michael could see his metered level of disdain for them. My dear friend Gaia has called me here today to ask a favor, and I have agreed. To answer your question, refusal would not be in your best interest. I have taken the liberty of placing 50 guardians here on Earth to protect the planet in its time of need. They are sleepers, waiting to be awakened. It would be useless for you to try to find them and destroy them, because they do not even know who they are. If they are awakened, one of them alone will hold enough power to destroy a god, let alone the combined power of all of them. Are there any more questions? Gaia smiled as Great Wolf finished. Thank you, Great Wolf. Black Wolf looked down at Michael. You are one of those guardians, Michael, and the time of your awakening is now. Michael still looked confused. But how am I supposed to be as powerful as Great Wolf is saying? What if I'm not ready? I mean, I'm only 18 years old. Black Wolf could see his frustration and fear under the weight of what all of this meant. Well, how's the easy part? You are an experiment, Michael. Great Wolf gathered together all of his best warriors, and the scientists of our world took pieces of their DNA. In your case, they took a piece of the White Wolf and a piece of me. We are your parents, Michael. Your original parents. Your earthly body may be only 18 years old, but your soul is over 10,000 years old. Deep inside your mind, you hold the knowledge of all your power, along with the memories of your former lives. When those memories are awakened, you will know everything you are capable of and how to use it. Michael looked a little shocked by what Black Wolf was saying. Wait a minute, what do you mean I'm an experiment? Black Wolf chuckled a little, because he was only confusing Michael more. The experiment was the combining of your mother and my DNA strands. We couldn't be sure what kind of results they would produce. You were essentially made in a lab, and your DNA was enhanced in such a way that your physical attributes and abilities would be increased to unknown proportions. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. Nevertheless, you and those like you would be like the super soldiers of our race. You are a full-blood Thunderwolf. However, I need to hand you over to your mother now to begin your training. Michael sighed with more frustration. How long is this going to take? I have a test on Monday. Black Wolf just chuckled as he reached out and opened another doorway and stepped through. On the other side, Michael saw a vast library larger than any he had ever seen before. He saw tapestries up on the walls depicting wolf nobles, and one that he recognized to be Great Wolf. Michael was in awe of the immense power he sensed radiating from the pictures alone. He could only imagine what meeting these beings in person would be like. Black Wolf set Michael down and let him walk around a bit. White Wolf will be here shortly, but I have some other things to attend to. I'll have to leave you for now. Your body has finished its physical changes, so there won't be any pain to cripple and distract you. I'll see you later. If you ever need me, all you have to do is call, and I will see you in your dreams and meditations. Black Wolf turned and walked away through a door that Michael could actually see this time. Michael walked around, looking through the open doorways up and down the hall he was in, staring at the endless rows of books and scrolls lining the walls. As he made his way back to the spot that Black Wolf had left him, he was startled to hear a shuffling sound behind him. When he turned to see where the sound had come from, he almost jumped out of his skin when he saw Great Wolf's head sticking out of the painting on the wall and looking directly at him. Don't be afraid, child. I'm not going to hurt you. I put great faith in you, along with your brothers and sisters, to aid the Earth in its time of need. Michael tried to speak, but he could only get out a shuddered response. How? Great Wolf smiled a wolfish grin. The power to protect the Earth and its people lies within you. It always has. As far as using it goes, all the knowledge that you see here will soon be yours. Great Wolf slid back into the picture, which distracted Michael enough that he almost didn't feel the paw that got placed on his shoulder. Michael slowly turned to see White Wolf standing behind him. He was a little more comfortable being around the giant wolves, but White Wolf could sense that Michael was still a bit shaken. Maybe this form will be a bit more comforting. As she said this, she began to change into a beautiful woman in a flowing gown and robes. All Michael could see to remind him of her former form was the faint blue glow in her eyes. We are shapeshifters, Michael. Therefore, we can change from our wolf forms to our more humanoid forms. Michael was amazed at the idea. Will I ever change into a wolf? White Wolf seemed to ponder that question for a moment. Maybe. Maybe not. There's no guarantee. You were born through a human host, so therefore your Earth Mother and Father's DNA mixed with your Thunderwolf DNA. Though you are still considered a full-blood Thunderwolf, their DNA strands might keep the gene that transformed you dormant. Michael looked at her in confusion. If I was born to two humans, how can I be considered a full-blood Thunderwolf? White Wolf smiled. It'll all make more sense when you regain your full knowledge. But I'll tell you the basics. Our people inhabited this planet over 10,000 years ago, along with the Atlanteans, Draconum, elves, dwarves, and countless other races. The Atlanteans, elves, and dwarves crossbred with the humans. We, on the other hand, sought to make them stronger, to enhance our ranks here on Earth, should we need them. We did this by injecting them with a gene serum. The gene serum, when injected into humans, causes them to grow stronger, faster, and more agile, far beyond their potential. They can fully heal from horrific injuries, regrow lost limbs, and live centuries beyond their average lifespan. A 100-year-old human would look to be in their 40s, and even on their deathbed, they would only look to be in their early 50s. Even with all our technological power, though, we cannot grant immortality. That is a precious gift that can only be bestowed by the gods themselves, such as Great Wolf. This is not to say that our people did not crossbreed with the humans, but the gene serum was much more insurant of a favorable outcome. Now here's something for you to wrap your brain around. You were alive back in those days, though you were only in your teens, at the time of our departure from this planet. The reason I tell you this is because, in all actuality, you could be your parents' ancestor. The last comment stunned Michael. He didn't know how to respond to possibly being his mother's ancient farts dust ancestor. Then he kind of got a bit sickened look on his face. Isn't that kind of like incest? White Wolf laughed at Michael's question, and the look of queasiness on his face. Oh, gods, no. She is so far removed from the bloodline. She just had enough in her that she was the perfect candidate to host your rebirth. Michael seemed to be a little more at ease after White Wolf explained. White Wolf laughed some more and placed a hand on Michael's shoulder to comfort him. Now that I've given you a little background on our people, it's time to awaken the knowledge and power within you. However, I do have to warn you, you will be tested to ensure the purity and strength of your soul. We can't allow this much power to fall into the hands of someone that is easily corrupted. I'll only ask you once, Michael. Are you ready for this? He took a second to think about it, and then looked at White Wolf. Do you believe I'm ready? She smiled at him with confidence. I, along with Great Wolf and Black Wolf, place the utmost faith in you. If we didn't believe in you, we wouldn't have brought you here. I believe you will make it through just fine. Michael sighed and took a deep breath. I'm ready. White Wolf nodded her head. Then let us begin. It's going to feel a little funny at first. I'm going to warn you, Michael. Evil will stop at nothing to possess your soul. He took another deep breath and then nodded. I won't let you down. White Wolf placed her hand on Michael's head and induced the test. Michael felt like he slipped into a dream, but it was the most horrible of dreams, and no matter what, he couldn't wake up. During the test, Michael was tempted by the 4 darkest evils in existence. Those long since forgotten by mankind, the nameless ones, that shall never be spoken of, for they only exist to destroy everything. Hell itself fears this evil, for even the 7th level of hell is a paradise compared to this place. They tortured him, offered him endless sexual pleasure, offered him power, all for his soul. And when that didn't work, they showed him horrific images of those he loved, being torn apart and skinned alive. Their mangled bodies were raped and sodomized for the sheer pleasure of these demons and the horror of Michael. These sights almost broke him, but he began to understand that these things are only possible if he were to allow it to happen. With this realization, Michael felt the power and rage growing inside of him. He would not allow this evil to overrun the earth, to hurt the ones he loved. He would never allow the innocent to fall prey to these demons. Michael began seeing a rush of information before his eyes. Numbers, words, phrases, faces, and names. Every past life he had ever lived was now flooding back to the surface. Former battles and past loves, which gave him the knowledge that his soul had already told him from the first day he laid eyes on her. Lisa was his soulmate, his one true love. In almost every life he lived, she had lived it with him. They were meant to be. He gained knowledge of things all over the world, throughout history, things he himself had experienced in his former lives. He gained knowledge of all the powers he possessed, the ones that Black Wolf and White Wolf had spoken of, psychic, magic, and others that he almost couldn't believe. Most importantly, he remembered how to use these powers so they wouldn't get away from him. Just before Michael sank into a calm, restful sleep to relax his mind after the test and the training, he heard White Wolf's voice one last time. You've passed the test and regained all the knowledge and power you once possessed. I'm proud of you, and I will always be watching. And that is the end of Chapter 3. So again, folks, if you are enjoying this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bells down below. Also be sure to go to the link to my author page if you do want to buy the book. I would very much appreciate it. So, you guys have a good day, and I will see you soon for Chapter 4. Bye.